Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. I wanted to talk to you about an article that's just dropped in the Wall Street Journal, and the headline is China is choking supply of critical minerals to Western defense companies. Underneath it reads Beijing's tightened controls are a sign of the leverage it has over the US military supply chain. Now, I've been talking about this issue with China, the Chinese Communist Party, for years, much more so from an Australian angle until maybe the last year or so, but then with much more of a focus on the US. And when Trump announced his tariffs and was particularly tough on China, I came out very publicly and made the point that this essentially had nothing to do with the economy from my perspective, that this was about national security first and foremost. And when it comes to the communist regime in China and the power that they already have, we keep seeing, and I keep falling into the trap of saying it too because I've been saying it for so long, the rising threat of China. It's not the rising threat of China, it is the current existing threat of the Chinese Communist Party. The regime has spent the last decade minimum, even longer, building its military to the kind of capability that they reckon can already beat the US in a one-on-one war. In fact, General Jack Keane, other US generals have said that their capability exceeds the US's. Now, that is going to change, and maybe it has changed already under Trump. And we know that the focus under Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is much more on lethality, which matters greatly. But this issue of the US being reliant, as it currently is, on minerals out of China, it's not even arguably the greatest threat to the world order as we see it, to America, is the Chinese Communist Party. They've made no secret of the fact that they want world dominance. Read their version of the Hansard of their parliament. They make no secret of it. Read their propaganda newspaper, the government's mouthpiece. They make no secret of it. And the fact that the US is reliant upon their resources to sustain and build its military, that it would be reliant upon if China, say, decided to take Taiwan, which it has said again and again that it will and it wants to, and people are predicting that will happen, some within 12 months, some within 2 years, some within less. The fact that the US is reliant upon China to maintain, build, sustain its military when it is its greatest adversary is the greatest failure almost of our time. And I made this point when Trump came out and I said, essentially, America over many, many years, because it relies so heavily on the manufacturing arm of China, has essentially funded the Chinese Communist Party's ability to build the kind of military capability it currently has. If someone can make it make sense to me, America, the strongest, most powerful country in the world, still-ish, from an Australian perspective, the country that we need to keep us safe because we sure as hell can't do it ourselves, has been paying for the Chinese Communist Party essentially through its investment in China and the manufacturing, and paying so much money for all the products that America needs and they can make cheaper in China, has been paying for China to build the kind of military now that can beat them. I mean, it makes no sense. And this is why when Trump announced the tariffs and when China was a specific target of those, it was about so much more than money. But anyway, this should scare everyone because, and why wouldn't China do this? Why wouldn't they? It would actually be dumb of them not to do this. But, and obviously the Trump administration identified this well before now. In fact, Trump was the first in recent times to identify what China was doing, what they were preparing for, not subtly, not under the radar, but very publicly. Everyone else ignored it. Biden ignored it. Obama ignored it. But now this is serious. And thank God there's a president in power who is not perfect. We know that. Nobody is. But thank God there is a US president in power who understands the threat. Not the rising threat, the current threat. But anyway, read the article. It's fascinating, but it's also absolutely terrifying. Again, China is choking supply of critical minerals to Western defense companies. And let me translate that for you. Western defense companies supply the US, the UK, ourselves with our military infrastructure, with our weapons, with our tanks, with fuel for those weapons, for those tanks. And China is now starting to tighten its control on the things required to make those.